The ambush happened on a Sunday afternoon. I should have known something was up when my brother Dylan invited me to our parents' house for a family lunch. He hadn't spoken to me in months, not since I'd refused to invest in his latest business venture, a gym for pets that anyone with common sense could see was doomed to fail. I walked into my childhood home to find my parents and Dylan sitting in the living room like an intervention committee. No food in sight. "Sit down, Vanessa," my father said, his voice stern. "We need to talk about your priorities." I remained standing. "What's going on?" Dylan leaned forward, his face a mask of desperation trying to look like determination. "I need your emergency fund. All $10,000 of it. My business needs one more injection of capital, and then it'll turn the corner. My name is Vanessa, and I'm a 31-year-old data analyst. I'd grown up in a family where financial responsibility was apparently a genetic trait that skipped everyone but me. My parents lived paycheck to paycheck despite decent incomes, always one emergency away from disaster. My brother Dylan was worse, a serial entrepreneur who'd failed at 6 businesses in 8 years, each time convinced the next one would make him rich. That $10,000 in my emergency fund? I'd saved it over 3 years, dollar by dollar, sacrifice by sacrifice. No vacations, no fancy dinners, driving a 10-year-old Honda while Dylan leased BMWs he couldn't afford. It was my safety net, my peace of mind, my protection against ending up like them. "Absolutely not," I said without hesitation. My mother gasped like I'd slapped her. "Vanessa, he's your brother." "I know who he is, Mom. He's the same brother who borrowed $3,000 for his food truck business that lasted 2 months. The same brother who took $2,000 for his cryptocurrency consulting firm that never had a single client. The same brother who—" "That's enough," my father interrupted. "Blood is thicker than water, Vanessa. Family helps family." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what's funny about that quote, Dad? People always use it wrong. The full quote is, 'The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.' It means the bonds you choose are stronger than family ties. But even if it meant what you think it means, I'm not giving Dylan my emergency fund." Dylan stood up, his face red. "It's just money, Vanessa. I'll pay you back with interest once Pofit takes off." "Pofit is a gym for dogs, Dylan. Dogs don't need treadmills. They need walks. Outside. For free. You don't understand the vision. I understand that you've burned through $50,000 of other people's money in 8 years. I understand that you've never paid anyone back. I understand that you're 35 years old and still asking family members to fund your pipe dreams." My mother started crying. "How can you be so cruel? We raised you better than this." "You raised me to be responsible," I shot back. "I'm the only one in this family who took that lesson to heart." "If you don't help your brother," my father said coldly, "then you're no daughter of mine." The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. I looked at each of them, my father with his stern face, my mother with her crocodile tears, my brother with his entitled rage, and realized I'd been the family AM for too long. "Fine," I said quietly. "Then I'm no daughter of yours." I turned and walked out, ignoring their shouts behind me. My phone started ringing before I even reached my car. I blocked all 3 numbers. The next few weeks were a blur of guilt, anger, and relief. They tried everything. Showing up at my apartment, I didn't answer. Coming to my workplace, security escorted them out, sending flying monkeys in the form of aunts and uncles to guilt me. My Aunt Carol called me crying about how I was tearing the family apart. "Dylan is tearing the family apart," I told her. "By constantly taking money he never repays and expecting everyone to enable him." "But he's trying so hard," she protested. "No, he's not. He's failing hard. There's a difference." I changed my phone number, moved to a new apartment, told my employer about the situation in case they tried to cause trouble at work. My supervisor, Janet, was incredibly supportive. "Family can be the worst," she said. I had to cut off my sister for similar reasons. Best decision I ever made. For the first time in my life, I felt free. No more emergency calls for money. No more guilt trips about being selfish with my savings. No more watching my hard-earned money disappear into Dylan's black hole of business failures. I focused on my career, got a promotion, and increased my emergency fund to $15,000. I started dating Marcus, a fellow data analyst who actually had his financial life together. Life was good. Then, 6 months after I'd walked out of that ambush, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Vanessa." It was my Aunt Carol, and she sounded panicked. Please don't hang up. It's an emergency. What kind of emergency? Your father had a heart attack. He's in the hospital. The insurance, there are complications. They need help with the bills. My stomach dropped. Despite everything, I still loved my father. How much? The deductible is $8,000. Your mother is beside herself. And Dylan? What about Dylan? Profit failed. He's broke. Actually, he's worse than broke. He owes money to some investors who weren't very understanding. He's been hiding at your parents' house. I sat down, processing this information. My father, who disowned me for not giving money to Dylan, now needed money for his medical bills. The irony was sharp enough to cut. What about their savings? I asked. What savings? You know they never saved anything. And the little they had. Dylan convinced them to invest in profit. Of course he did. Please, Vanessa. I know they treated you terribly, but… I'll think about it, I said and hung up. I did think about it. For 3 days, I wrestled with my conscience. They'd chosen Dylan over me. They'd called me selfish for protecting my financial security. They'd literally disowned me. But they were still my parents. Finally, I made a decision. I called Aunt Carol back. I'll pay the hospital bill, I said. But I have conditions. Anything. First, I pay the hospital directly. No money goes through anyone else's hands. Second, Dylan gets nothing. Not a penny. Third, they all go to financial counseling. All of them. Fourth, this doesn't mean we're reconciling. This is a one-time thing because Dad needs medical care. I'll tell them. The next day, I went to the hospital's billing office and paid the $8,000 directly. I didn't visit my father. I didn't want to see any of them. But I monitored his condition through Aunt Carol. He recovered well, thankfully. 2 weeks later, I got a letter from my mother. It was long, rambling, full of justifications and accusations. But buried in the middle was something unexpected. Dylan told us the truth about all the money he's taken over the years. Not just from you, but from other family members, friends, even a loan shark. He's in trouble, Vanessa. Real trouble. Your father and I are selling the house to pay his debts and downsize. We should have listened to you. We should have stopped enabling him years ago. But we were blinded by the fact that he's our son. We forgot that you're our daughter, and you deserved better. I didn't respond. I wasn't ready for reconciliation, and I might never be. But I was glad they were finally seeing the truth about Dylan. Marcus, who'd been incredibly supportive through all of this, asked me one night if I regretted paying the hospital bill. No, I said. I didn't do it for them. I did it for me. To prove that I can help when it's a real emergency, not just another one of Dylan's schemes. My emergency fund did exactly what it was supposed to do, handle an actual emergency. Even though they treated you like garbage? Especially because they treated me like garbage. It shows that I'm not selfish. I'm selective. There's a difference. A year later, I heard through Aunt Carol that my parents had sold their house, moved into a small apartment, and were attending financial literacy classes. Dylan had disappeared. Some said he'd moved to another state to escape his debts. Others said he was working on oil rigs to pay back what he owed. Either way, he was no longer their problem or mine. My emergency fund was back up to $15,000 and growing. My career was thriving. My relationship with Marcus was solid. I'd built a life free from financial manipulation and guilt. Sometimes I think about that Sunday afternoon ambush. How different my life would be if I'd caved and given Dylan that $10,000. It would have disappeared into Profit's failure, and I'd have had nothing when my father's real emergency hit. My family would have continued the cycle of enabling and codependency. Instead, I stood firm. I protected my boundaries and my bank account. I showed them what real financial responsibility looked like, even if they hated me for it at the time. The phrase blood is thicker than water gets thrown around a lot in toxic families. It's used to justify all kinds of abuse, manipulation, and boundary violations. But you know what's thicker than blood? Self-respect. Financial security. The family you choose versus the family that chooses to use you. My emergency fund saved me in ways I never expected. Not just financially, but emotionally. It gave me the power to say no to manipulation. It gave me the freedom to walk away from toxicity. And when a real emergency came, it allowed me to help on my own terms, proving that boundaries aren't about being selfish, they're about being smart. If you're watching this and facing similar pressure from family, remember, your savings are yours. Your financial security is not selfish. Real family doesn't demand you bankrupt yourself for their bad decisions. Real family respects your boundaries and celebrates your success. That $10,000 they wanted for a dog gym? It's now $20,000 in my emergency fund, plus investments, plus a down payment on a condo. Because that's what happens when you invest in yourself instead of someone else's delusions. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your family is show them what healthy boundaries look like, even if they hate you for it. Especially if they hate you for it. Because enabling isn't love. It's just slow-motion destruction for everyone involved. Thank you for watching my story. Protect your savings, set your boundaries, and remember, blood may be thicker than water, but it's not thicker than your bank account.